What is up, Coalcrackers? Today we're going to talk about 5 leatherworking tools that I think every leatherworker needs in their shop. And what we're also going to look at is a few things that didn't make the top 5 list for me, but if you're a beginner, you definitely need to think about having. All right, guys, so welcome to the shop. We're just gonna jump right into it. 5 tools that I think every leather worker needs. And leather work is an important thing when it comes to bushcraft in my mind, because there's nothing better than being able to create an item from nothing, from just buying some raw goods, creating it and going out and then utilizing that when you're in the woods. It's absolutely awesome. And most of the gear that we carry as bushcrafters is more robust, more heavy. So leather, cotton, and canvas, that stuff translates over to being able to repair it if something does happen to it. So having some of these tools gives you the opportunity to fix your gear. So let's just get rolling along here. Now, I don't even want to say in a specific order. I'm just going to go through the 5 things that I picked out here that I had from the very beginning that I think are important. Now, an awl is a very important thing. Almost every leather crafter uses one because we can do so many different things with it. Number one, we can score the leather that we're working with. So when you're tracing one of your patterns that you took time to make, it's way easier to just lightly go around that with the awl and indent the leather or scratch the leather to show you where you're gonna make your cuts, compared to trying to use a marker or some type of pencil. Our awl also allows us to pre-punch holes or be able to pull material through, such as heavy lacing and things like that. So an awl, definitely like high up there on the list. You should definitely have one of these things. Next is just our utility blade. So I know a lot of people have their knife and they like to use their knife as much as possible. When you're in the field, that's fine, but when you're in your shop, a utility blade comes in so much handier for cutting all of your leather. Number one, you just replace the blade when it gets bad or you break the tip of it or something like that, but it gives you such nice, clean, even cuts on your leather. So this thing for cutting leather is just an absolute priceless piece of gear. Everything from fine strips to curves, this thing is gonna get the job done every single time. The diamond punch. So this is gonna be number 3 for me, is the diamond punch. So a diamond punch is something that I didn't use right away when I first started leathercraft. I started with just my awl. I'd mark everything and pre-punch all my holes with the awl, and then I got one of these and I was like, where have you been my whole life? Now these come in different sizes, different spacings, different amounts of actual punches built in here. This one has 4 punches on there. It's 4mm in size. So what is so nice about this is that when you do leather work, you want all your stitching very consistent, specifically if you're gonna see that stitching. So with something like this punch, you really easily just work your way down the leather. You have nice, even, consistent holes that you can now sew together. Also, when you're putting 2 pieces of leather together, as long as you measure where that first hole on each piece starts, this is gonna give you a consistent hole pattern on each piece. So when you match them up, it works out perfect. This thing is a lifesaver. It's gonna make your leather work look just that much better. A hole punch. Now, different than a diamond punch. A diamond punch is just cutting the leather. So we're just putting cuts in the leather consistently across the leather. What a hole punch is gonna do is actually remove a small piece of leather, okay? These rotary hole punches, you can buy these real cheap at any big box store, but what you can also get are these small little single hole punches that you use a hammer with in order to punch a hole. Now, I use both of these. The nice thing though, if you get the single punch, is that if the hole is very far in for like a snap or a buckle, and the rotary punch, you can't get the leather in enough, it doesn't matter. You could punch anywhere on the leather with this. You're not gonna mar up or scratch your leather. The thing with the rotary punch though is there's all different size punches compared to if you buy one punch, then you're just stuck with that one hole size. This is 5/32, and this works for just about everything from snaps to rivets to lacing. So this is a nice size to get if you're gonna put a smaller kit together. And then the last one, needles. Needles are one of the most valuable things when it comes to putting your project together, because you need to sew all that leather together, all that time and effort you put in laying out your pattern and cutting it and punching your holes. Now you have to sew it together. So a variety of different needles is going to suit you best. Now I know you can say, well, that's more than 5 because we're putting all these different needles in, but just look at needles as a whole. So my recommendation is just get a whole bunch of different style of needles. And when you're working on projects, try your different needles and see what suits you best. I know for me, a lot of times I start out with an S needle and then I finish up with a very dull yarn type needle. And it seems to work really, really well. So again, you got to just find like what works best for you. But needles, having a lot of them, because sometimes you're even going to break them pulling them through hard leather. Just get a lot of needles, try them out and find what you like the best. And there you go with those 5 things. Your utility blade, your diamond punch, your hole punch, and your needles. You can craft just about anything out of leather that you would want to make. Now, of course, there are specialty tools beyond this depending on what you're actually making, but these things are definitely going to get you started and headed in the right direction. But beyond these things, so these things literally, minus the needles, which I'm not going to try to jam in my hand, I mean, these things, they take up barely any room at all. And there's something that you can stick right inside your backpack if you're going on a longer trip with a couple pieces of leather, and then you can start crafting. But there's some things beyond that that I find that are extremely valuable for me here at the shop that I use all the time that I definitely want to share with you. First one being a metal straight edge. Now this is a metal ruler, okay? But any metal straight edge is gonna work really nice for layouts, designs, and cutting straight lines. Nothing looks worse than an edge of leather when it looks like you cut it with a weed whacker. Horrible. Now to go along with the cutting tools that I showed in the first 5 that I think are important, I personally love a good pair of leather cutting scissors. So these are specific to cutting leather. They're heavy duty, they cut nice and straight, they cut super smooth, and I use these things all the time. So definitely maybe think about picking up a good pair of leather cutting scissors. Now when it comes to sewing the project together, of course, thread is something that you're gonna assume that you already have, that you're gonna need. I like bonded nylon thread for most of my leather working projects. So what I do here is this is just white thread. It works fine for what I need it for. There's different colors, different sizes, but get yourself a good nylon or polyester thread for your projects, but also artificial sinew is, to me, one of the nicest things that you can sew with, especially for outdoor type projects. It just gives it a nice rustic look. It's super strong, super heavy duty. I've never had any of this break from tension being pulled on it, other than it getting cut by accident with a knife or something. But artificial sinew, it's waxed, it slides through the leather really nice. It finishes off really well. Definitely something for your arsenal. And then the biggest trick that I can share with you is to use contact cement. Now, you don't have to use this contact cement. Any contact cement will work, but sometimes when you're putting pieces of leather together, you don't want them to slide, you don't want them to move, or you're gonna pre-punch all your holes and you need them to line up just perfectly. A little bit of contact cement will get you through. So that is like, you can't imagine how much that's gonna help your life when you start doing more complex projects and putting pieces of leather on top of each other or next to each other, and they need to be just perfect. All right, so there you go. There are my 5 leather working tools that I think are most important to get when you're first gonna start this, and then a couple extra things that I find super, super helpful when doing leather work. So yeah, I know we're not outside in the woods getting dirty, starting campfires, like spearing fish with gigs and stuff like that. But this is literally relaxing, fun, and it feeds into our hobby so much that in all your downtime, during a rainstorm or when you're home and you can't make it outside, you can sit in the evenings and work on different projects and make yourself really nice pieces of gear. And then when you go out, it's gonna just make your experience that much better. So if you have any questions about this stuff, definitely hit me up, but really basic stuff that you can get. I buy most of my stuff at Tandy Leather because I have a Tandy Leather close to me, but Weaver Leather also sells all this stuff. You can even type these things in individually online and the stuff will just come right up. So definitely think about getting in this, and if you make any cool leather projects, hit me up and show me what they look like. I'd love to see them. So this was Dan Wowack with Coalcracker Bushcraft. As always, check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com, and until the next video, stay in the leather shop. Switched it up there on you.